Welcome back. We'll be continuing our exploration and source criticism of the Islamic text that we started in the video on Muhammad and Merkabah mysticism. We're going to stick to the Quran here with the account of Adam and Iblis. Now, this occurs in numerous places throughout the Quran, in part or in whole. Here's a list of the pericopes in the Quran. You can look up each one of those cases and do a comparative study if you would like. But in this video, we're going to compare what we see in this story to texts that predate the Quran. So we'll be looking at three texts. Namely, I'll put them up on the screen for you. The first is the life of Adam and Eve. The original composition would be about 100 BC to 200 AD, with later Greek and Latin texts added around the 5th century. The second text we'll look at is the Gospel of Bartholomew. That's about the 3rd century. And then the Book of the Cave of Treasures, which comes from about the 4th century. Now, it would be quite tedious to do an exhaustive study here with all of the elements of this story that occur in various places throughout the Quran. So we're just going to look at 5 elements, and we're going to see how they exist in the Quran and then in the texts that predate the Quran. So let's go through a quick comparative study. The first element of the story of Adam and Iblis that we'll look at is the command to bow down to Adam. From Surah 2 and Surah 18, you see the command there. We said to the angels, bow down to Adam, and again in Surah 18. Now, it's not stated explicitly here in the Book of the Cave of Treasures, but it's implied because you have the voice of God saying unto him, Adam, behold, I have made thee king, priest, and prophet, and Lord, and head, etc. And so God gives Adam quite an exalted status here, at which point the angels bow the knee. Now, the command to worship is more explicitly stated in the life of Adam and Eve. Michael brought you and made us worship you in the sight of God. This is repeated later in the life of Adam and Eve in chapter 14. Michael went out and called all the angels, saying, worship the image of the Lord God, as the Lord God has instructed. And we can add in here as well the Gospel of Bartholomew. Michael said, worship thou the image of God. So the common element here of the command to bow down or to worship Adam exists in the Quran, as well as these 3 earlier texts. The second element that we'll look at is where the angels actually bow down or worship Adam in Surah 15. So the angels prostrated themselves, and in Surah 20, we said to the angels, prostrate yourselves to Adam. They prostrated themselves. From the Book of the Cave of Treasures, when the angels heard this speech, they all bowed the knee and worshipped him. From the life of Adam and Eve, and Michael himself worshipped first. So the angels worship. This is, again, another common element. Satan refuses in Surah 7. Not so Iblis, he refused to be of those who prostrate. And Surah 17, they bowed down except Iblis. And once again, this is a common element in the Book of the Cave of Treasures. God said to him, come thou also, for thou shalt worship my image and likeness. Satan refused to do so. From the life of Adam and Eve, Satan answered, I do not worship Adam. And once again, from the Gospel of Bartholomew, Satan said, I am of fire. I was the first angel formed, and shall worship clay and matter. So Satan refuses to worship in all of these accounts as well. The next common element, Satan criticizes man as inferior. From Surah 38, I am better than he. Thou createst me from fire, and him thou createst from clay. Surah 15, I am not one to prostrate myself to man, whom thou didst create from sounding clay, from mud, molded into shape. This is true as well in the Book of the Cave of Treasures. It is meet that he should worship me, for I existed before he came into being. From the life of Adam and Eve, why do you compel me? I will not worship one inferior and subsequent to me. I am prior to him in creation. Before he was made, I was already made. He ought to worship me. And we quoted this previously from the Gospel of Bartholomew. In Satan's refusal, he proclaims that he is superior because he was formed from fire. The next common element we'll look at is the expulsion of Satan. This occurs in Surah 7. Get thee down from this. It is not for thee to be arrogant. Here, get out. Thou art the meanest of creatures. And again in Surah 38, Satan is expelled. This occurs as well in the Book of the Cave of Treasures. Hurl him down from heaven to earth. And we have this as well in the life of Adam and Eve. We were expelled into this world from our dwellings and have been cast onto the earth. From the Gospel of Bartholomew, then was God wroth with me and cast me down, having commanded the windows of heaven to be opened. So the common elements that we've explored here between the Quran and pre-existing texts: first, the command to bow down to Adam. The angels then bow down. Third, Satan criticizes man as inferior. Fourth, Satan refuses to worship. And then finally, Satan is expelled. So this brings up a number of questions. For example, the Quran claims to affirm what came before it, i.e. the Torah and the Gospel. From Surah 3, we see that quite clearly. Then in Surah 5 as well, confirming that which was revealed before him in the Torah, and we bestowed on him the Gospel. But the problem is that these books are nowhere near the Torah and the Gospel. That's quite clear from both their composition as well as their theology. Now, all of this raises some questions. There are a number of differences in these accounts. For example, Allah cannot quote Iblis consistently. Okay, did Iblis say this, "I am better than he, thou createst me from fire, and him thou createst from clay"? Or did Iblis say this, "I am not one to prostrate myself to man, whom thou didst create from sounding clay, from mud molded into shape"? Which one did Iblis say? Why can't Allah quote the characters in the story correctly? Further, why can't Allah quote himself correctly? Did he say, as in Surah 7, "Get thee down from this, it is not for thee to be arrogant. Here, get out, for thou art the meanest of creatures"? Or did he say, "Then get thee out from here, for thou art rejected, accursed, and the curse shall be on thee till the day of judgment"? Which is it? Why can't Allah quote himself consistently? Further, in Surah 38, 7, and 15, did Allah say this, "O Iblis, what prevents thee from prostrating," etc.? Or did he say, "What prevents thee from prostrating when I commanded thee"? Or did he say, "What is your reason for not being among those who prostrated themselves"? So it's puzzling why Allah can't quote himself consistently, nor can he quote consistently the characters in the story. It also raises questions about inspiration. When you open Sahih al-Bukhari, Book 1, the Book of Revelation, we see the types of physical and psychological changes that Muhammad allegedly underwent as he was receiving his revelation. Sometimes it's revealed like the ringing of a bell. On a cold day, sweat dropping from his forehead, according to Aisha. Allah's messenger used to bear the revelation with great trouble and used to move his lips quickly with inspiration. So the question that this raises is, why did Muhammad have to undergo these types of physical and psychological changes to receive information that already existed? If you were literate, perhaps you had access to the text and you could read the text. If you were illiterate, you could hear these traditions being circulated in oral form. This is how the normal person would receive this type of information. But Muhammad has to bear the heavy burden of these revelations with sweat and the ringing of a bell and these trance-like states to receive information that already existed. It's very strange. Further, we have to ask, what is the Quran? Is it the word of Allah? Or from the previous video on Merkavah mysticism, is it the word of the Mishnah, 2 Enoch, 3 Enoch, Testament of Solomon, Apocalypse of Abraham, the Book of Jubilees? From this video, is the Quran the word of the life of Adam and Eve, the Book of the Cave of Treasures, or the Gospel of Bartholomew? What exactly is the Quran? These are questions I would like Muslims to answer. I'll be looking for your answers in the comments below. Thanks for watching.